Good morning, everybody. Steve Fletcher with a trumpet for my people. Today's January 5th, 2026. I want to go over some information with you guys. I need to set a framework for what we're going to share. There's new information, signs in the heavens to show us where we are, what is happening. And so I want to go over this information. Going back to December 6th, we had a major sign in Whitehorse, Yukon Territory, Canada. This was a 7.0 earthquake. One of the reports showed that this was the largest earthquake in Canada since 1946. In other words, going on 80 years. The largest Canada earthquake since 1946. Just to confirm this with you, Whitehorse earthquake, largest since 1946. A magnitude 7.0 earthquake that struck near the Yukon-Alaska border on December 6, 2025, was indeed the strongest to affect the Whitehorse area in recent history, and the strongest onshore earthquake recorded in Canada since the 1946 Vancouver Island event. The Vancouver Island event happened on June 23rd, 1946. So again, this is the birth month of Donald Trump. June 14th, 1946. This magnitude 7.3 in Canada hit just 9 days after Donald Trump's birthday. So we have an earthquake in Whitehorse, Canada, which is the largest since 1946. 7.0. So we've got a very important sign. We've got 7 is the number of God. And we've got the white horse. We've got a sign to the end of a generation, 80 years, 79, 80 years. And the report showed 80 years, right? The largest in 80 years. Then we have ongoing aftershocks that are happening in Whitehorse. I did a report on January 1st that since December 24th there had been 70 aftershocks. I went back to December 1st. It was over 800 aftershocks in this area, what would be considered Whitehorse. Even though it seems a long ways away, this is what's coming up because this is the closest major city. Okay, Whitehorse. Revelation 19:11, and I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse. He that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. Revelation 19:11. So we've got the major earthquake, we've got aftershocks, we've got a sign in Whitehorse that we need to pay attention to. Could this be connected to Trump? Could this be connected to the last Trump? Could this be connected to a very important trumpet warning, a very important time that we are in? Okay, Whitehorse. This information, as we started sharing about this, people send in information. So, I mean, I don't know about any of this. I didn't know that the Trump family began in Whitehorse, Canada, and that was where the beginning of their fortune came from. Frederick Trump, paternal grandfather of Donald Trump, the 45th and 47th President of the United States. This information taken from Wikipedia. Frederick Trump, born and raised in Karlstadt in what was then the Kingdom of Bavaria, Trump immigrated to the United States in 1885. In 1891, he began speculating in real estate in Seattle, and during the Klondike Gold Rush, he moved to the Yukon and made his fortune by operating a restaurant and a brothel for miners in Whitehorse. So Trump and his family and his fortune began, and a very important step in the Trump empire began in Whitehorse, Canada. All right, so we've got information here. We've got the major earthquakes. We've got the aftershocks. We've got the connection to Trump 1946, the last time there was a 7.0 or greater in Canada, 1946, the month of Donald Trump's birth. Then we've got Whitehorse connected to the Trump family. Okay, this information that came out here on December 31st at Trump's New Year's party in Mar-a-Lago, Florida, is incredible information. I mean, when you think of all the details and how blasphemous everything really is. I mean, how blasphemous is all of this? I mean, when you consider this information. Donald Trump entered the party with his wife Melania in a silver dress. And I had shared this information in this video I did 2 days ago. Almost 40,000 views. Donald Trump subtly announces the return of Jesus Christ, focusing on January 11th, 2026. Almost 40,000 views. If you haven't seen this, make sure you see this, because this lays the foundation for what I'm sharing. And I'm just going to go over this information with you again. And so Donald Trump enters the party with Melania in a silver dress. He enters under the music of the Lone Ranger, which is really the William Tell Overture. The William Tell Overture. The William Tell Overture is the music of the Lone Ranger. Okay? It's not originally from the Lone Ranger. It's originally from the William Tell Overture. And I haven't gone into the history of the William Tell Overture and looked at all of that. But what we are seeing here is the Lone Ranger rides a white horse named Silver. And Melania was dressed in silver, and they came in under the music of the Lone Ranger. Okay, that's one portion of it, but it just gets so much deeper, because within the party then, this Christian painter artist, Vanessa Orabuena, and hora buena in Spanish means at just the right time. So Jesus will return at just the right time. She paints this painting of Jesus in 10 minutes. And they auction this painting off for charity, and the painting goes to the highest bidder at $2.75 million. Then Donald Trump says, who will give three? Who will give three? Who will give three? And he said it's going to St. Jude's Hospital. Okay, so St. Jude, I mean, who sold Jesus for 30 pieces of silver? It was Judas. Okay, Judas. Judas Iscariot sold Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. And now he's selling a painting, and he doesn't get 3 million, but he wants to get 3 million. He's, who will give 3 million? And he repeats himself. And then he connects it to the money is going to go to St. Jude's Hospital. Okay. So we've got silver, like 30 pieces of silver. We also have the connection to the white horse. So we've got all of this. I mean, and this was the Last Supper of 2025. I mean, New Year's Eve, right? So it's the Last Supper, and Jesus was being sold for 30 pieces of silver. And we've got Trump on a white horse. So now within days, okay, that was December 31st. And the announcement of the white horse is coming since the beginning of December. The white horse earthquakes, Canada connected to Trump in the Trump family history. Then we have the New Year's Eve party and the announcements of Trump coming in on a white horse and selling Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. Then we have, within days, 3 days later, on January 3rd, Trump going into Venezuela and taking out Maduro. Now, Venezuela is one of the only countries in the world that has a white horse on their national flag. Some of their national flags have just the three stripes and the stars. But on the national flags at all official sites, like at the government palaces and at the city town halls and throughout the country, it's the flag and the coat of arms. And this coat of arms has a white horse on it. There's very few countries, maybe only 2 or 3 in the whole world, that have a white horse as part of their national flag. I mean, we had already talked about the eagle surrounding the carcass, the United States being the eagle, and carcass sounds a lot like Caracas. Carcass. It's the same letters, just switch up the letters. The eagle was surrounding the carcass. Okay, and that's from Matthew 24. But here we have, okay, so Donald Trump goes into Venezuela. But then within hours, okay, Donald Trump goes into Venezuela, and they've been planning this for 3 months, he said. And basically, this was the extraction, like the perfect extraction. Unbelievable the way this was all set up and planned, and unbelievable the way that it was all carried out. That, like, I'm basically within an hour or within 2 hours, they had gone in to the presidential palace, dropped down from a helicopter by rope, and no American lives were lost. No American equipment was lost. Gunfire, bombs, and everything, but they pulled out Maduro out of his bedroom, and he's now in New York. I did a video about midnight New York and how that was all connected to MAMDANI, or MAMDANI, or MAMDANI. I don't know how you pronounce his name. MAMDANI, whatever. So I had done a video about midnight New York and how it's all connected to MAMDANI too, with 9/11 and New York being given over to the terrorists and the Muslims. I went into all of that in my video called Midnight New York. If you haven't seen that, check that out. It talks about how MAMDANI is connected to 9/11, the beginning of America connected to December 31st and January 1st, and all of that. Very important signs that we need to be watching, and connected to New York, which is, New York is 666. New York is where the United Nations is, a very important city, not only in America, but in the world. Okay, so what we have then is Nicolas Maduro in New York, and the first words he says when he comes through the DEA hallway, they have him on video, and he says, "Good night, Happy New Year." Okay? Good night, Happy New Year. So, I mean, when he is talking about good night, Happy New Year, he's talking about the midnight hour. I mean, I think we're watching the midnight hour based on everything that we have seen with the party of Donald Trump, how at that party he sold Jesus for almost $3 million. It's going to St. Jude, connected to the white horse. The midnight cry. It's just, things are just getting so obvious and so blasphemous that it's unbelievable. But now we've got Maduro in New York, and he says Happy New Year and good night. Okay, so New York, the midnight cry. All right, this is where it gets interesting and where we're going to have to see where this goes in the coming days. But within hours of Trump taking down Maduro, within hours and within one day, yesterday, all of the information is coming in now that Trump is threatening Cuba, Mexico, Colombia, Iran, Greenland, and India, all in a matter of a few hours. Trump basically said to Cuba, Mexico, and Colombia, get your act in order or the same fate will follow for you guys that what we did to Venezuela. You know, he wants to take over Greenland. They're threatening to attack Iran and India. I mean, what is happening? Who is this guy? Who's this guy? What's he doing? I had shared with you about Maduro being ripe, and that on the day that Donald Trump went in and took out Maduro, we had COMET 3i Atlas in the sickle portion of Leo the lion. The head is a sickle, and Maduro means ripe. And we've got 3i Atlas right here, and it says, another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, thrust in thy sickle and reap, for the time is come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. So the harvest of the earth is ripe. 3i Atlas in the sickle, and Maduro on this day. But there's another sign in the heavens that we didn't see, and I was looking at this last night because I'm like, who is this Trump guy? What's happening? Why is this happening the way it's happening? And here is the prophecy about a rider on a white horse. Behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. On January 3rd, the same day, just like this, 3i Atlas in the sickle, on January 3rd, we have the sun in Sagittarius with two witnesses, Mars and Venus, in like perfect conjunction here. You're not going to be able to see this in the heavens. You're not going to be able to see it because the sun is going to block out the glare of Mars and Venus. But on the full moon of January 3rd, there was also a sign in Gemini of the moon with Jupiter. So this is also part of this as a sign. The moon being conjoined with Jupiter, this is a visible sign in the heavens that you can see at the night of the full moon. So I could have included this in that screenshot that I'm doing, but I just wanted to show you that this is also an important sign on January 3rd. And so the key phrase here, I mean, we've got the white horse in the heavens. We've got Sagittarius. We've got the bow. And we've got the crown here. Okay, this represents the constellation of the seals. And we've got the bow. And we've got the crown. Okay, and we've got the confirmation with Mars and Venus right here. But it says that he went forth conquering and to conquer. All right, so is this the representation of Donald Trump, where he is right now, what he's doing, what role he's portraying, what is his biblical role? Anyway, you know, this is information that everybody needs to see, and here it is. The white horse of Venezuela, Maduro is ripe. We've got the reaping, and we've got the conquering. Okay, so now that we have what could be the beginning of the first seal, I mean, we've seen many ways that the first seal could have been opened already a long time ago, back in 2019, the beginning of the coronavirus. But for those who, you know, didn't see that and didn't really understand that, I mean, we have right now another interpretation and another fulfillment that is really amazing, really clear, I think, of where we could be. And so now we have what could be the beginning of the first seal, starting with the invasion of Venezuela. And now immediately Donald Trump is going out to conquer and to conquer. Could this be then the 7-day warning to January 11th? January 11th. And now what we end up what we end up seeing in the Bible is that Jesus is coming at the midnight hour. The midnight hour could be easily seen as the winter solstice. And so we had all of the warnings coming to December 21st and December 22nd. The winter solstice, 77 years, 7 months, 7 days to the 7th day of Hanukkah. 7777. 7. And then we had the connection to the beginning of the war, 808 days from the 8th day of Tabernacles to the 8th day of Hanukkah. So this was 8888. On the 7th day of Hanukkah, we had the sign of 77777. On the 8th day of Hanukkah, we had the sign of 8888. Then from the day the earth rang like a bell, it was exact, perfect, 2597, 2598 to the 7th and 8th days of Hanukkah, and this is the Feast of the Dedication, Chanukah, in the Hebrew Concordance, connected to the end of Hanukkah, the 7th and 8th days of Hanukkah. Okay, so Matthew 25, the 10 virgins, says that there was a cry at midnight. They all went out to see him, but there was a delay. And it was here that the virgins either kept their oils, in their lamp, kept their lamps trimmed, and stayed ready, or they fell back to sleep and ended up without oil. And then when the bridegroom was finally then coming, the foolish virgin said, "Give us some of your oil." And the wise virgin says, "No, that we have just enough for ourselves. We have just enough for ourselves. You have to go and buy your own oil." The other thing about Venezuela is the oil and the connection to this whole. I mean, everybody's going for the oil. Trump's going for the oil. And this could be the beginning of World War III. I mean, when you consider Trump going in and just saying, "I'm taking Venezuela," and like, hey, who are you? Who do you think you are? That's our oil too. That belongs to the world, and most wars, all wars are started because of money and because of oil. The biblical scenario is the cry comes at midnight and then there's a delay. Daniel 10 talks about a 21-day battle in heaven, and Revelation 12 also says that Michael and his archangels fought with the dragon, and the dragon was cast out. So when you talk about Michael and the archangel fighting with the dragon, I mean, right there in Daniel 10, it shows us there's a 21-day battle. Revelation 12 shows Michael and the archangels fighting with the dragon. And the battle is shown to us in Daniel as 21 days. So we have a 21-day delay, bringing us to January 11th from December 21st. This connects us to the sign in the heavens of the menorah that God made with every eclipse throughout history, being, going forward and going backward from January 11th has a match by equal number of days. Someone asked me where you can find the graphs to this. Let me show you some of the other photos we had of this to show this important sign. Okay, back in January of 2024, when this sign happened, on January 11th, 2024, I shared a number of screenshots to show. Okay, so the first thing we see is that all solar eclipses going forward and going backward from January 11th, solar eclipse, solar eclipse, solar eclipse, solar eclipse, and we went back to 2017 to 2030. Okay, so this was solar eclipses. Then you look at the lunar eclipses. And this lunar eclipse was 1949. This was the tetrad of 1949 when Israel was a nation. Just became a nation, and there was a tetrad from 1949, 1950. Okay, 27,301 days. Going forward, 27,301 days on October 9th and 10th of 2098, there's going to be another lunar eclipse. Okay, so this graph right here shows that all of the lunar eclipses, and this graph shows all of the solar eclipses have their midpoint in January 11th. And the other thing about this is it's not just the total eclipses, it's every eclipse, even partial. It's all lunar eclipses, total and partial. All solar eclipses, total and partial, have their center date on January 11th, 2024. And we did all of these graphs to show this, okay? The other thing that I shared in 2024 when we were watching this is that my oldest daughter, her birthday is January 11th, Melissa. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before that great and notable day of the Lord. So the sun being turned into darkness and the moon into blood is a sign of the coming of the Lord. And this, I believe, was the sign. Every eclipse linked to this date, January 11th. I'm going to talk to you about the prophecy of Rabbi Kaduri and the connection to the death of Ariel Sharon and how that connects. We had talked about this back in 2024 because it connects to January 11th. I had also talked to you about the timeline of COVID and how everything began December 31st, late December of 2019, and the first death of COVID was January 11th, 2020, another very important sign for January 11th. So we've got the information here with the sun going dark and the moon turning to blood before the day of the Lord. This sign connects to every eclipse in the history of the world. Every eclipse in the history of the world. I mean, if you can just sit, take a minute and think of that. Every eclipse in the history of the world is connected to January 11th. And that's a sign of the coming of the Lord. The sun being dark and the moon turning into blood. The day the earth rang like a bell, 11/11. 111, January 11th, 111. When we look at the death of Ariel Sharon and the prophecy of Rabbi Kaduri and how the Messiah will be revealed connected to the death of Ariel Sharon, he died on January 11th, 2014. But he was also in a coma for 8 years and 8 days. He went into a coma on January 4th, 2006. And he died on January 11th, 2014. And so when you include the end date, the day of his death on January 11th, 2014, he was in a coma for 8 years and 8 days. Connection of 8/8 to 111. Consider that when you look at September 11th, 2001, the day the Twin Towers fell, to January 11th, 2026, it's 8888 days. Trump means 88. Back to the Future showed the pre-programming of 9/11 connected to 88 miles an hour. When this baby hits 88 miles an hour, and they, boom, the time warp, time travel, Back to the Future, 88 days from 9/11 to January 11, 2026. Okay, the White Horse, the Midnight Cry, the signs in the heavens of the reaping, and of the horse going out to conquer and to conquer. Donald Trump making threats all across the world now. Who is Donald Trump? And is this then the final warning to January 11th, 2026 from Donald Trump's invasion of Venezuela? Are you ready for the return of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? I pray you are blessed. This is Steve Fletcher with a trumpet for my people, the sign of his coming revealed.